Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Orientation Leader Information Session, the recorded version. My name is Ellie Burke. I use she, they pronouns, and I'm the Assistant Director of New Student and Transition Programs here at Ithaca College. And one of my primary roles is to oversee the orientation process and to supervise the orientation leaders. So I'm really excited to get to talk to you all about what this role looks like, what some changes are for this next year, and get you all excited to potentially apply for this position. So what's ahead, what you can expect out of this presentation? We're going to go over some important dates. We'll talk more about the orientation leader role, talk about the new requirements in case you have heard from orientation leaders what the process is like. We do have some new requirements for this coming year. You get a sneak peek at what orientation leader training typically looks like. We'll talk through the application and selection process. I'll give you all some resume tips, and then we'll skip the questions for now. But if you have any questions, you can always ask us via email or give our office a call. So some important dates to be aware of. We're going to start reviewing applications potentially as early as Friday, October 31st. We are going to be doing that on a rolling basis. So we'll continue accepting applications and continue reviewing them into spring semester, but we'll start taking a look at them and slowly bringing interviews in and all of that. That will begin October 31st and or the first week of November. The earliest OL interviews would be starting on Wednesday, November 5th. And then we won't really have anything except interview stuff until the end of spring semester 2026. So there will be a required orientation staff kickoff meeting on Wednesday, April 22nd. There will be slightly more information about this on a later slide. But it is required, and also we recognize the class comes first. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I might have class that day, I don't know what my schedule is, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out next semester if you get the role. If you're selected for this position, orientation leader move-in occurs Friday, August 8th through Saturday, August 9th. That weekend, it's Saturday, August 8th and Sunday, August 9th. That is incorrect, but it's okay. So move-in will be the weekend before training starts. Training will start August 10th and run through the 14th. And then fall 2026, orientation and fall move-in, all that good stuff, that'll take place August 17th through 23rd. So you would need to be available for at least August 10th through August 23rd if you're interested in this position. What are the qualifications and the pay, right? Those are good questions. So to qualify to be an orientation leader, you need to be in good judicial and academic standing. You need to have a minimum cumulative GPA of at least 2.5 that's maintained through the end of spring semester. You need to have full-time enrollment as either an undergraduate or graduate student at the time of hire through the end of fall 2026. So as long as you're not graduating until December of 2026, you would be eligible to work orientation this coming year. And then additionally, you have to be available to work all of those orientation dates that were on the past slide. The position is hourly. It is $16 an hour for next year. And then we estimate that typically orientation leaders work between 60 and 70 hours over the course of those 2 weeks. So training and orientation week, it's typically around 60 to 70 hours if you want to guesstimate about what that looks like. Some more about the orientation leader role. The responsibilities include leading a small group of students, typically at least 20, sometimes more. This year we were a little bit short on orientation leaders, so those groups were a little bit larger, but they can be anywhere between 20 and around 25 students. You also, in addition to those small group meetings, be responsible for running a group chat with your small group. Typically, we use GroupMe. It's a great opportunity for you to be able to send updates, location changes, information to your small groups during orientation week. And then if something comes up during the semester, sometimes we might ask y'all to send a message in that GroupMe to get some information out to them. You're also responsible for creating a welcoming and inclusive environment for all of our new students. and to actively engage students in meaningful conversations and connection during the sessions and events that you're working. So really making them feel welcome and wanted on campus, and including them in all the things that we do here. You'll also be responsible for problem solving, sometimes managing crises, and really just being a mentor and being someone that our new students can rely on should something happen or if they have a question or a concern. And then one of the last ones that we'll talk about is assisting in orientation prep, whether that's escorting students or families and guests around campus, setting up, tearing down events, working events, all the things. There's a lot of slightly random things that sometimes orientation leaders will do as part of that orientation prep and process. So, some of the qualities of a good orientation leader are someone who's communicative and really willing to talk to people and get to know their team and get to know their small group. Someone who's open minded. You're working with a large staff of people and a small group who's coming from literally all over the US, and outside of the US. So, keeping an open mind is really imperative in this position. You're also one of the first people that these new students are going to interact with here at Ithaca College. So someone who's approachable is really, really important because if they don't feel like that they can come up to you, like it's not going to go very well to getting them feeling welcome, that kind of thing. Additionally, because we work on such a large team, being a team player and being able to work with the other orientation leaders is really, really important. We work a lot of hours over the course of those 2 weeks. So, someone who's really reliable is also important, and someone who's organized is very helpful when it comes to keeping your binder straight and knowing the things and being able to keep the schedule straight. So, someone who's reliable and organized, very, very helpful in this position. And then the last two are passionate. So, someone who's really excited about Ithaca College and making sure that people feel welcome and have a place where they can feel safe and secure. So, someone who's really excited about that and passionate about it. And also just fun. Like, hopefully, you can get a sense from these pictures that, like, being an orientation leader and working orientation is a lot of fun. We do that intentionally so that we as staff can also just have fun, but also so that the students who are attending orientation know that this is a fun, upbeat place where they can like not just be studying all the time, but also like enjoy themselves a little bit. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, there is a new requirement for orientation leaders for 2026. So this new requirement has to do with some of the feedback that we received on the fall 2025 orientation leader survey. So I am a big data nerd and I love learning more about how well or how not well our programs are running. And so some of the feedback we received on the orientation leader survey was that OL training really wasn't as effective as it could have / should have been. And there was a suggestion for potentially incorporating something like SLI sessions in really having that be a supplement to orientation leader training. I thought that was a great idea. So we figured out a way to make it work, to pull it off and figure out exactly what that would look like. So there is now a requirement to maintain the role of orientation leader. You need to complete at least 4 SLI sessions, one in each of the following areas for a total of your first 3, and then the fourth one can be in any category that you want. The 3 areas that you have to complete at least one SLI in is leading others, leading self, and leading in a diverse world. If you participate in a leading at IC SLI and want to use that as your one of choice, that also counts. But otherwise, you have to get at least 3 in those other categories. If you're thinking, oh my gosh, but I've already done a bunch of SLIs, will those count? Like, yes, they can count. We do have a form that orientation leaders who are selected, or those who are selected for the role, will receive. So as long as you can remember what happened at that session and you can tie the content of that session to the orientation leader role, it will count as an SLI towards this requirement. So recognizing that you all have limited time, so if you've done them in the past, we still want to make sure that that counts and your time is being spent worthwhile. All right, so what does orientation leader training look like? First of all, it looks like a lot of fun. This picture is from orientation leader training. We typically do a big welcome video, so that's what this picture is from. But we also just try and build in a lot of opportunities to get to know each other and just enjoy ourselves a little bit before the long hours that we work of orientation. So more specifically, orientation leader training is paid, most importantly. I don't believe in free labor. So it is paid training. There are sessions that prepare you for supporting transitioning new students, supporting the families and guests who are coming with them, and really just informing the people that you're talking to about the resources that are on campus in a way that's accurate and up to date. It also looks like teaching you how to facilitate small groups, learning about your strengths and who you are as a leader as well, and also just answering IC related questions. So there are a lot of sessions to try and prepare you, and we're doing that even more so for this coming year in response to those survey results. We also typically have an all-staff meeting once per day of training so that we have an opportunity to connect with everybody on staff, answer questions, give you all updates, all that good stuff. You also have meetings with your orientation leader huddles. So in addition to the OLs, there are orientation mentors who are returning orientation leaders who wanted to step up, and instead of having a small group of new students, they essentially have a small group or a huddle of orientation leaders. So they're sort of the OL's OL, if that makes sense. So you typically will have at least one of those per day, so you have time to debrief the content and talk about what's coming in the next day in your small group with your orientation mentor. There are also social events to connect with fellow orientation leaders. We try and, like I said, build in some fun elements as well. And then part of training, like I said, we do OL surveys to get feedback and understand how things are working. We do that in 3 parts. So there's a pre-training survey that you take on day 1 of training. There's a post-training survey that you take at the very end of training. And then there's a third one that you take at the end of orientation, so that we can really gather as much information about training, about orientation from your perspective, all of that. So we really do genuinely want that feedback to be able to make updates and changes that benefit both the OLs and the new students. So now that you've gotten a sneak peek about what that might look like, why should you be an OL? Well, there are a ton of transferable skills and campus leadership experience opportunities for you. Per this 2021 National Association of Colleges and Employers, or NACE, Outlook survey, the top 10 qualities that employers are looking for are the following. So things like problem solving, strong work ethic, leadership skills, verbal communication, etc. So these are the top 10 things that employers are looking for. And as an orientation leader, you get all of them. There are opportunities for you to learn how to problem solve better. You're working on a large team. This job requires a strong work ethic because it's doing so many different things and there's moving pieces. There's analytical and quantitative skills, trying to figure out exactly how things work and using our systems, all of that. So really, you do get all of those skills, and it's very easy to transfer them into experience in other areas as well. All right. Additionally, being an orientation leader allows you to meet new friends and create memorable experiences. To strengthen your leadership skills, you get to have an impact on incoming students. Per the survey results from post-orientation, this one, having an impact on incoming students, is the number one thing that orientation leaders get out of this, and one of their favorite parts of this position is being able to help them and be able to watch them grow and all of that. You also get to share your unique voice and perspective. You get to work with a supportive team. I like to think our leadership team here is pretty cool. I know I'm biased as the boss, but we have a very supportive team that's really here for your success just as much as we are for the new student success. You get to learn about campus resources and things that you might not know that are available to you as a student as well. So you're not just learning about information to give to the students, you're also learning about things that might help you. You also get to move back to campus 2 weeks early. This is another popular I really enjoy this part that I hear from the orientation leaders. And then you also, if you do a good job, get a reference for future jobs and you get to form professional relationships with staff. As long as you do a great job, I'm always happy to be a reference for orientation leaders. So that is a huge thing that you will need post-graduation, is some really strong references when you're applying for jobs. Okay, so again, talking more about the application process. Like I mentioned in the beginning, application review begins starting Friday, October 31st. There are two parts to the application process, and if one part of it is missing, first you'll get an email from us saying, hey, this part is missing. But if you're missing a part and you don't get back to us with it, we unfortunately can't go through with your application, and we would have to reject it. So make sure that you get in both your resume and the application on the HR cloud. So that's through the job posting, that's through the official channels. And then there's also a Microsoft form that's linked in the job description that allows you to answer a few questions and also upload 2 professional references. What we mean by that is 2 people who are really able to offer perspective into your work ethic, how you work with other people, those kinds of things. So if you're like, well, actually, Ellie, I've never worked a real job before, or had a job where I had a formal supervisor, that's okay. If you've worked with an advisor in high school for a club, or if you work closely with a mentor, just again, someone who could speak to those things like work ethic and how you work with people and the things that we could do to support you, kind of thing. So all of those would work. Again, round 1 interviews will begin as early as Wednesday, November 5th. The first round of job offers will likely be sent around December 5th. And then round 2 interviews will begin once we come back after winter break. So again, it's a rolling basis. If you don't get it in right away, that's okay. And then round 2 job offers, we're hoping to get out by February 23rd, or at least the end of February or so. And then again, there's the orientation staff kickoff meeting on Wednesday, April 22nd. That, I can't remember the time off the top of my head, but we'll put it in the description. But that meeting, the first hour will be a required meeting, and then the second hour will be an optional unpaid social. So the required meeting will be paid. The social hour, the second half, will not. But again, that will be Wednesday, April 22nd. So when decisions are sent out, they might look like 3 different things. The first is a job offer. And what this means is that we think that you would be a great OL and we can guarantee that we have a position for you. I can say with 100% certainty that I have an open position. If you receive a rejection, at this time we don't have a good position for you, and or we might think that you're not going to be a good fit for this year's team. It doesn't necessarily mean that you wouldn't be a good fit for a future team or, moving forward, but for this specific team for this year, it might not work. And then the third option would be what we call an alternate position. So what is an alternate position? So basically, an alternate position is a way for us to create an alternate pool, so to speak, that gives us some additional qualified candidates that we might not have been able to hire before a spot opened up. If you're offered an alternate position, it means that we really like you and we think that you might work on the team, but we just can't guarantee that there's an open position for you at that time. It might mean that towards closer to the end of the semester, we reach out and say, hey, we've had a position open up. We really want you to join us. It might also mean that sometime during the summer, if you accept an alternate position, we might reach out and say, hey, do you want to do this? So basically, it's not that you're not good or not qualified or not going to be a good fit. It's that we can't say, yes, I absolutely have a position that I can offer to you. Okay, last slide, and then I will put up the slide that has our email and stuff. But some tips if you haven't really done a lot of resume work before, brainstorm what you've done in the past and what aspects of your leadership positions, whether that's on a club or in a job that you had in high school or that you have here on campus, etc. Really focus about what parts are the most important and focus on describing what you do. For example, if you're looking at a position where you need to provide excellent customer service, and you were a server, that makes it very easy because that whole role is about providing customer service. You can back that up with a resume bullet point that says something along the lines of like, you engaged with patrons to provide an excellent customer experience while managing a 3 to 5 table section in a popular family restaurant, right? So find ways to spin the things that you've done and really try your best to tailor it to the position that you're applying for. My biggest piece of advice when it comes to all things resumes is that if you're uncertain or you want to make sure that your resume is very professional and ready to go, set up an appointment with the Center for Career Exploration and Development. It's a very great resource for you to have access to. You're not necessarily going to have access to that everywhere that you go. So having someone there who's really knowledgeable to go over your resume with you and make sure that you can present yourself in the best light possible. It's really, really helpful. I did that as an undergrad several times, so don't be afraid to set up that meeting. All right, so that is all we have for you during this presentation. If you have questions, please feel free to send us an email at nstp@ithaca.edu, or you can give us a call at the number below, so 607-274-1908. We're always happy to answer any questions that you might have about the position or the hiring process, anything that you can think of, we're here. You can also pop by the third floor of the campus center. We're in Egbert Hall 325, so we share a suite with the Office of Student Engagement. So you're also welcome to pop by and see if we're in. We love to have visitors, so feel free to come ask your questions in person if you would prefer that. But otherwise, thank you for watching this video, and I hope it helps as you're thinking about applying to be an orientation leader.